Jefferson Middle School sat tucked between concrete tenements and a bodega with a flickering neon sign. The bricks were chipped. The playground fence sagged. You could feel how tired the building was, like it had seen too many generations pass through without ever catching its breath. The kids here weren't just dealing with algebra and grammar, they were dodging real-world struggles before they even got to homeroom. It was in this place where Hope often had to shout just to be heard that two very different men would soon collide, and together they'd do more than just change a school. They'd change each other. Anthony Reynolds was the new principal, 37, tall, composed, and sharp as a blade. He wore tailored suits and carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who'd studied the system and believed he could fix it. He had degrees from Harvard and Columbia. He'd worked in charter schools, on state committees. He was the kind of guy superintendents bragged about hiring. But Jefferson wasn't like the schools in his policy binders. There were mornings when 3 kids would show up without shoes. There were days when teachers cried in the staff lounge. There were fights over food, over silence, over nothing. Anthony quickly realized this wasn't going to be about test scores. It was going to be about survival. Marty Davis moved through the school like a shadow. No one noticed him when he cleaned gum off the desks. No one asked how he was when he worked Saturdays, replacing broken ceiling tiles. He never complained, never asked for praise. But he saw everything. He saw the boy who cried in the stairwell every Monday morning. He saw the girl who stopped eating after her father was deported. He noticed when teachers stopped decorating their rooms, when hope started to slip from their eyes. Marty didn't just clean the school, he absorbed it. One evening, after the halls had quieted and the sun dipped low behind the chain-link fence, Anthony wandered into the gym. His shoulders were slumped. He carried a clipboard, but he wasn't reading it. Marty was there, sweeping the wooden floor, earbuds in, humming softly to the Temptations. "You look like you're losing a fight that hasn't even started," Marty said suddenly, without turning. Anthony paused. No introduction, no Mr. Davis. Just truth. He looked up, and for the first time since taking the job, smiled. There was something about the janitor's tone gruff, but not unkind, familiar but not familiar, like he'd seen this all before. That moment didn't just break the ice, it cracked open something deeper. Their next conversation happened by accident, or maybe fate. Anthony was heading out late, passing the custodial room. The door was open, the light buzzing softly. Marty was inside, organizing supplies. Something made Anthony pause. "Mind if I sit?" he asked, pointing to an overturned bucket. Marty nodded, and that's where it started. For weeks they met in that closet. No appointments, no agendas. Just late-night honesty, the kind that only happens when no one's watching. They talked about broken homes, broken systems, and how a school could break a kid in 1,000 quiet ways. Marty didn't speak in fancy terms. He just spoke the truth. And Anthony listened. Really listened. Anthony had studied all the data. He could recite studies about school reform, cite policy proposals from memory. But Marty? He had scars. He knew what it was like to skip school, not because he was lazy, but because the power was out and his little sister needed someone to make breakfast. He knew what it was like to be called stupid when he just couldn't focus because he hadn't eaten in 24 hours. "You're fixing the roof," Marty said once, "but the foundation's rotten." That line stuck with Anthony for months, because no spreadsheet in the world could measure that kind of wisdom. One night, over a stack of napkins and coffee, they talked about hunger, real hunger. About the kids who showed up late not because they were lazy, but because they were walking their little siblings to school. About the fights that started because someone looked at someone wrong when really it was because their stomachs were empty. Anthony asked the question, what would happen if we fed everyone? Marty didn't even hesitate. You'd see fewer fights, better grades, and kids who stop thinking they don't matter. That conversation birthed a policy: free breakfast for every student, no forms, no shame, just food. The district scoffed until Marty stood up at the board meeting and told them his story. and suddenly the room got quiet. It wasn't overnight, but slowly the atmosphere changed. Students began showing up early, drawn by the smell of warm eggs and cinnamon toast. Teachers noticed something strange. Kids were smiling, even laughing. The tension that used to crackle in the halls began to soften. One teacher described it best. "It's like someone opened the windows and let the light in." That light had a name. It was dignity, and it started in the cafeteria. Fueled by their success, Anthony and Marty kept building. Together, they introduced conflict circles instead of detentions, where students talked about what they felt, not just what they did. They created a staff mentorship program that included not just teachers but aides, cafeteria workers, and yes, janitors. Marty became a mentor to 2 kids no one else could reach. He didn't lecture, he listened. He taught them how to fix a broken desk, how to patch a wall, how to keep showing up. Those boys didn't just stay in school, they started to lead. It was June, the end-of-year assembly. Hundreds of students, parents, and staff packed the gym. Anthony stepped onto the stage. "I want to introduce the man who taught me what education really means," he said. The screen behind him flickered on. Photos of Marty flashed, mopping floors, hugging students, laughing with teachers. And then silence. Anthony handed him the Staff Excellence Award. The crowd erupted. Students cheered. Teachers cried. Even Marty's stoic eyes glistened. "I never thought I'd be anyone's role model," he whispered into the mic. "But maybe I just needed someone to believe I could be." After that assembly, things didn't go back to normal, because now there was a new normal. Marty wasn't just the janitor. He was a leader. Anthony wasn't just the principal. He was a listener. Together, they showed the staff that change doesn't always come from above. Sometimes it comes from below, quietly, patiently, and with great heart. Marty retired 2 years later. The school held a farewell event, not in the break room, but in the auditorium. They unveiled a plaque in the main hallway, "To Marty Davis, who cleaned our floors and lifted our souls." Anthony visits him once a week. They talk about Knicks games, education, and the next generation. Anthony still says, "Every major policy I made at Jefferson started in a janitor's closet." And Marty? He just smiles and says, "Sometimes the smartest room in the building has bleach on the floor." This isn't just a story about a principal and a janitor. It's about what happens when 2 people decide that background doesn't matter, only intention does. It's about what grows in the spaces no one looks like broom closets, cafeterias, and broken schools. And it's a reminder that real change doesn't start with a title. It starts with trust. And sometimes the most powerful friendships begin with a mop, a bucket, and the willingness to listen.